You are listening to the Big Scuba. This is an audio-only episode.
Hello, welcome to the Big Scuba Show.
So here we are, once again.
Hi everyone, my name's Simon Hilbourne and I work with the Manta Trust, and I'm here today on the Big Scuba Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Big Scuba. We are back, everybody. This is episode 43, Gemma.
It is, yes.
Yeah. We always love to get to people with a few stats and a few interesting facts. Well, I got one for you. Did you know 43
Comes after 42.
That is very true, but also comes before 44. No, did you know George W. Bush, his nickname while he was in charge, was actually called 43 because he was the 43rd president. So yeah, that's what they used to refer to him. Yep, there we go. So a little interesting fact that may be true. Right, so where are we? We are going to be talking to you today to Manta Trust.
Yep, we're talking to Simon Hilbourne from Manta Trust. He's currently in the UK, but he knows a lot about mantas.
Now, there was a reason why we've done Manta Trust, and that's because it kind of links in nicely with our last guest, Project Aware.
Episode 40.
Yeah, and they've got a little bit of crossover because they do refer to Manta Trust in that episode. And it was a really good one to do following, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hello, welcome to the Big Scuba YouTube channel. Thank you for watching this episode. If you'd like to see more, please do subscribe to our channel so you can hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell, that is the notification bell, and that will tell you when we release new episodes on the YouTube channel. So please do like, hit the thumbs up, and do comment, because we love hearing your comments. So that's it, and carry on watching this episode.
There we go. So anyway, it's enough of us running on, but I think we should crack on to our guest.
Yes, so we've got Simon Hilbourne from the Manta Trust.
Awesome. Enjoy.
I've never lost myself without you.
Simon Hilbourne, thank you for joining us from the Manta Trust. Would you like to kick off and tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks very much for having me. I have been with the Manta Trust for about 4 years now. I started off out in the Maldives working for the Maldivian Manta Ray project, and I carried on working out there at a number of our bases around the country. I think we have 6 different sites where we do research and conservation activities, and I worked at a number of those. And then in the last couple of years, I've moved away from being full-time in the Maldives, and I work for now the wider Manta Trust charity, running all the sort of digital media and communications stuff for the charity.
Wow.
Quite a busy job.
Yes, especially in recent months, now that everything seems to be online and digital. A lot more of it seems to be coming my way, but no, it's good.
Yeah, well, so people have got more time on their hands as well to look at everything as well online, haven't they?
Yeah. So during the sort of COVID lockdown period, we instigated a number of new initiatives like an online kids club and a webinar series and stuff like that. So when we're not able to sort of meet people in person through tourism, we kind of had to look for other tacks to get the message out and to share insights and news and inform people. So yeah, we kind of took some of it online.
Yeah, have you noticed quite a big increase in your kind of followers and audience out there?
At the beginning, for sure, it was going really well, and then I think as lockdown started to ease, people started going back to their normal jobs, had less time to sort of sit down and listen to webinars about manta rays all day long, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, some people have sort of learned a bit more through the lockdown about mantas as well and what you do.
Yeah, I definitely think we managed to reach out to a slightly different audience, which is always good.
Yeah, no, it is. So you're an instructor?
I was a PADI instructor and a BSAC instructor. I don't do any teaching anymore. I kind of moved away from the tourism side and trying to focus more on the conservation and the animal side of things. But yeah, still a avid diver. Do as much as I can whenever I can.
Yeah, that's good. So how did you get into diving?
That's a little bit of an odd one. I grew up in Sri Lanka for a number of years when I was a little kid, and both my parents learned to scuba dive there, and they really loved it. I was too young at the time, but then we moved to Thailand, and I did my open water when I did junior open water, and then the whole family could dive, so we sort of go on little dive holidays here and there. I just kind of fell in love with it, and I kept going and kind of did my advanced open water, then rescue. My parents were just recreational fun divers, and then took a year out, did my dive master, worked in Australia for a year on the Great Barrier Reef during my instructor's course. Then came back to university in England to do a degree in marine biology, and that's kind of where I started to drift away from teaching diving and the kind of tourism side of it, more towards the conservation and the animals.
That's a great foundation when to hear that you had that background right from a child all the way through. That's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
so you must have got your perfect job, virtually.
Pretty much.
You're not in the water all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I was incredibly sort of fortunate with being able to learn to dive at such a young age and having that access to it, which was amazing. I mean, even when I was at university doing a 4-year degree in marine biology, there were a lot of people on the course who'd never been scuba diving in their life, and I found that a bit odd that you'd sign up for a sort of 4-year degree course and had never tried scuba diving. But it's landed me in a very nice position now. I really enjoy my work and my job.
Yeah, well, an understanding of the underwater world as well, as you've actually been there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so have you done much diving in the UK?
Not too much. I haven't spent much time living in the UK over the years. At university was kind of the main time, and I would spend my summers going off and working as an instructor in different places around the world as a sort of summer job. Since lockdown now, though, I've done a little bit more. I've been to Lundy, tried to do the blue shark snorkeling, went up and saw the basking sharks off Isle of Coll this summer as well, which was really cool. But yeah, there's a lot more around the UK that I'd love to see, because it can be really, really nice.
Yeah, I think lockdown has proved that to a lot of people, that UK has a lot to offer for divers when the conditions are right.
Yeah. No mantas, unfortunately, but lots of other really cool.
Yeah. So for our listeners, can you tell us a bit more about the Manta Trust and kind of how it started and evolved?
Sure. So it was set up, I think, a number of years ago, back in the Maldives, when Dr. Guy Stevens was a marine biologist at the Four Seasons Resort over there. And he was basically the resort marine biologist on the boats. And sort of noticed that there were a lot of these manta rays around, and found it quite interesting, and started to collect some sort of data on the side, just as a fun little hobby, I think. And basically approached the general manager of the resort and asked for support in kind of setting up a bit more of a long-term established project. And that's kind of how the Maldivian Manta Ray project was born. Then over a couple of years of sort of collecting data on the mantas there, it was realized that mantas don't just need sort of researching and protecting and conservation in the Maldives. So he established Manta Trust as a kind of umbrella charity in 2011, I believe. So I've only been an official charity for just under 10 years or so. And we're a UK and US registered charity. And the way the Manta Trust kind of works is we've got the Maldives as our starting base, where we sort of built up from, but we kind of act as an umbrella organization or umbrella charity for lots of different affiliate projects all around the world, and a means for them to all sort of connect and collaborate and work together. So we've got, I think it's between 20 and 25 different affiliate projects, from Mexico, Brazil, Costa Rica, to the Azores, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Indonesia, and then down into sort of New Zealand, French Polynesia, that kind of area as well. So in the majority of the manta hotspots around the world, we have an affiliate project that's their own sort of charity, their own whatever organization or business, and they just sort of work with us and collaborate with us, and we help them find funding and put them in contact with researchers and sort of share ideas and knowledge between all.
Well, that's good, because funding, especially funding, is probably one of the hardest things, isn't it? Getting financial support for these projects.
Yes, very much so. And I mean, this year has kind of really shown that a lot of our affiliate projects, the smaller ones, are very reliant on tourism.
Yeah.
Either working with a collaborative sort of dive center. So whoever the researcher is just basically works as a dive instructor. That's their kind of their job, their earning. And then they work part-time running their sort of manta conservation project on the side. So as soon as that tourism gets taken away, yeah, funding starts to dry up pretty quickly, unfortunately. So yeah, being able to work with sort of Manta Trust, we can help facilitate, help them get slightly larger grants, and also we provide funding from time to time from the sort of Manta Trust pot.
Yeah. And are you finding more organisations coming on board, or are you finding that through the COVID things are you finding that harder to sort of collaborate with?
No, I mean, none of our projects are sort of closed down, thankfully. I think a lot of them went kind of on hold whilst they couldn't really do anything, and everything went a little bit stagnant in terms of collecting data and being able to be out in the field. But a lot of our team, what we basically did was turn tack, and we've been collecting this data for years and years. Now is kind of the time to sit down and turn this all into scientific publications and get that out into published journals and stuff like that. So this year we've seen quite a spike in the number of sort of scientific publications that we've published between all the different affiliate projects, which is really, really good to see. Because I mean, we're collecting all that data and we kind of know about it, but until you get that peer reviewed and into the public domain, it's not really helping too many other people. So yeah.
So who do you feed that information to? Because we spoke to Manta Pacific, and through the podcast we spoke to other groups like Project Aware as well. It seems like you're all gathering data on different animals and some of the same animals, but then do you then all work together so you've got a communicative
centralized pot of data?
Currently, no. Unfortunately, there's a sort of lot of politics with that sort of thing. Again, it comes back to funding. Funding depends on what you've published, and that all depends on what data you've collected. So as soon as you start sharing your data, unfortunately, it starts to make all that a little bit more complicated. So kind of generally no, but if there is something specific that we want to investigate, so if we're talking about mantas out in Socorro versus along the Pacific mainland coast of Mexico, down into sort of Central South America, if there's some specific project that we want to start looking at, okay, are these mantas moving and migrating between these areas? Those 2 or 3 affiliate projects might get together and sign an MOU and start sharing their data based on that. And sort of, if there's a reason to do it, they will sort of work towards that. So similar in the Maldives, with our sort of oceanic manta ray population in the Maldives. And then there's quite a substantial manta fishery over in Sri Lanka. So if they get any sort of IDs from the mantas being caught and killed in the fish market, they send them through to us, and we can kind of compare them to figure out if that was a manta that we had identified alive swimming around in the Maldives or nothing.
Yeah, I'd say there's one thing I've noticed, and it might be because of the podcast, I don't know, but I don't remember it previous to this year. It's this phrase, citizen science. And we, one of our partners is Paralens, and it's one of the things that they have pushed quite a bit on their app, is so if people are diving and and they see a manta ray, they can log it on their app, same as you can with the other Manta Trust and Manta Pacific. And it's not just them, but there's other people got all species. SSI, you can log through the SSI app. Different species that you witness.
Locations.
And we're talking about the Maldives. There's Blue O2, another partner who have also now gone live with their liveaboard, and they're now back out in the Maldives. So, and they're now pushing people as citizen scientists, Galapagos, and it's really great. And I don't remember the previous year this hashtag citizen science being a thing. And
Yeah.
so this, I don't know whether it's because like we're all been sitting at home thinking let's all go out diving
And the podcast as well.
and I thought, well, this is really good because we're all getting this technology, and companies, and organisations like Manta Trust are making it easier for people like me and you. When we go diving, we can say we've seen one, we've been one, we've seen one, and we can log it.
No, absolutely. And I think
we couldn't.
People also find it really interesting. I mean, if you go on a dive and you see a turtle or a manta or whatever, it's kind of like, okay, that was cool. But if you can then reach out to an organization who's researching those, and you sort of submit the photos and they get back to you and say, oh yeah, that's a pregnant female we've known for 7 years. She was pregnant 2 years ago. Last year, she was actually entangled in some fishing line, but somebody managed to cut her free. Like that whole story, it suddenly makes that manta, oh, it's not just a manta. Like now you have a background to that individual, and there's a lot more connection, which I think is really lovely for sort of divers. Yeah. And I mean, that's nice for them, but then also the sort of charity or the conservation group, that's another tiny little piece of the puzzle to figure out where these animals are going and what they're doing and how long they live for, which seem like quite simple questions, but in the case of manta rays, often we don't really know the answers to those yet. So,
and you need,
really important.
Divers to actually literally buy in, don't you? To buy in to support Manta Trust, because the more involved the average scuba diver is, and they don't have to be a tech diver; they can just be a fun diver like us.
Literally, all we need from a submission is we need a clear enough photo, and that doesn't have to be from a DSLR setup with strobes or anything like that. It's as long as we can see the spot patterns, and you give us the location, like the dive site name, and we know the date. And I mean, the time is helpful, but not so necessary. As long as we know which manta that was, where it was, on what day, that's enough for us to sort of log it as a piece of information. And everyone records that in their logbooks anyway. Everyone's now got a GoPro or a little TG5 or something. So yeah, there's I guess there's no excuse really now.
Or a power lens, you've got to drop that in for a
power lens, exactly.
And it also is really good because it just connects the divers to the underwater world much more, doesn't it? It gives them, they're going there to see things, but it just follows on. It gives them more of a story, I think, doesn't it? Take ownership of something as well, which is really good.
Yeah, with our mantas in the Maldives as well, if you submit an ID and it's a new manta ray, one that we don't have in our database already, you get to name it. So throughout the majority of the Maldives, where there's quite sort of heavy dive tourism and we have our research bases and stuff, it's quite unusual to get a new manta. But if you're on an expedition somewhere up to the far north of the Maldives or to a slightly unusual area, there's quite a good chance that you might get a new manta ray, and then you get to name it, and it will forever be in our database.
Cool. We're waiting for the big scuba manta.
Yeah, we need a big scuba manta. That's what we need.
Yeah. So with your projects, do you do any tagging and sort of track all these mantas across the
around the world? We do. In the Maldives specifically, we don't do any tagging of mantas. There's unfortunately quite negative reception towards tagging of individuals. I don't think there's quite like the clear understanding of the benefits that come along with it. So there's quite a bit of sort of negativity around the whole tagging situation. So yeah, we tend to try and steer clear of it as much as possible, which is a bit of a shame because like as mentioned, for the oceanic manta rays in the south of the Maldives, they are being caught and killed in large numbers in Sri Lanka. So until we understand kind of where they're going, and we see them for such a small window, so the only real way of sort of collecting that data is through either tagging or biopsy samples to then do genetic comparisons, things like that. But
so mantas are legally being fished around the world, are they?
Yeah, it's more and more countries are moving away from sort of it being legal, but there are still a few countries around the world, like Sri Lanka, for example, where the fishing of manta rays or mobulas, whether it's oceanic mantas or little devil rays and whatever, it is still legal. So yeah, that is a bit of an issue. There's a lot more sort of rules and regulations in terms of international trade of these. So the economic driver for catching mobulas is the gill plates, which are dried out and sent to sort of southern China to be eaten in gill plate soup, peng su yai. So it follows a very similar trend to shark fin, where it's got these sort of magical healing abilities, and it's kind of a pseudo remedy, and it's basically heavily marketed by the sellers for all of these false cures to ailments, and that's the main economic driver for these fisheries, really. In a lot of the countries, the manta or mobula meat is eaten, but it's not a delicacy. It doesn't fetch as high a price as sort of tuna or wahoo or something like that. It's the gill plates that really make it financially viable to be catching them.
Pretty shocking.
So you actually need governments to get involved as well, then, really, don't you?
Yeah, so that's what we've done in a number of countries around the world. We've worked with often the local sort of NGOs in country to basically lobby the government to put in protection, and then with the international sort of agreements with CMS and with CITES, Manta Trust has played a big part in kind of pushing for rules and regulations for the international trade. So yeah, now it should technically be quite hard to trade manta parts around the world, but often what we find is it's just put down on the sort of on the labels for customs and stuff. Instead of manta gill plates, it's just dried fish. So then obviously customs and whatever, they don't really know what they're looking at, and then it's a whole another issue. So yeah, there's loopholes which we need to try and plug.
Yeah. So in your time at Manta Trust, have you noticed a sort of trend in terms of the manta populations or sightings?
It's very hard to say with that sort of thing over long periods of time, especially considering we haven't really been collecting data for that long, and these animals live for sort of 30, 40 years. So to see population trends is quite tricky. Around the world, though, we have sort of seen a lot of populations in decline, and one of the easiest way to tell that is from the fisheries. So the fishermen are just having harder and harder time catching as many mantas or mobulas, and that's a clear indication that, okay, we didn't know that population really existed, like we didn't have photo IDs of all these individuals or anything, but just the fact that the fishermen no longer can catch them, it's a clear sign that the population has been quite heavily reduced. In the Maldives, though, mantas and sharks have had protection for a number of years, and it's a really healthy population. The number of mantas on our record keeps going up, but that's because we very rarely find dead mantas. They sink, so it's very hard to sort of cross one off the list and say that manta is no longer alive. I think we only have 2 or 3 accounts where that's happened, but there's definitely going to be more that have just, I don't know, died of old age or whatever. But yeah.
Because looking on the endangered nature list, the red list, they're all recorded as in decreasing numbers.
Yeah, in kind of a global sense, yeah, that is the sort of the overall story. The issue is with things like Manta Rays or species like Manta Rays, they reproduce so infrequently. They have one baby, one pup at a time, sort of every 5 to 7 years. Then that baby takes 10 years or so to reach sexual maturity and then to reproduce again. So even in the best of conditions, that population is going to be very, very slow to increase and to grow. As soon as you add in any sort of fishing effort, it's really going to start to put some heavy pressure on the population. So in terms of a sustainable fishery for manta rays, the concept just doesn't exist. It's not feasible really at all.
Yeah, it's a shame, but at least you've got yourselves working towards protection.
Quite well. I didn't realise they take so long. They have to. That's 10 years or so before they can actually breed.
Yeah. Yeah, about 10 years before they reach sexual maturity.
Stage, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite. What's going on, and you see why you need the support and the governments to sort of get behind like Manta Trust and really change people think.
But I mean, things are definitely moving in the right direction with a lot of these countries. They're either considering it, or they've started to take measures, or they've actually gone ahead and added manta rays and mobula rays to the national protection lists and stuff. So it is all moving in the right direction. Then one of the big issues is, okay, what's happening on the high seas outside of all of these countries, like national territory waters out in the open ocean, especially with sort of mobulas and stuff. and with tuna fishing fleets, we just really have so little data about what's going on out there with these fishing fleets and how many they're catching. Yeah, so and that's a very hard thing for researchers to go out, because I mean, hiring a boat to just go out and search the open ocean is incredibly expensive, and the chance of you coming across what you're looking for very, very slim. So
And they're not exactly going to be particularly happy about researchers turning up to see what they're up to either.
no, exactly. I mean, a lot of countries have fishery observers on board and things, and regional fisheries organizations are starting to realize the importance of sharks and rays for a healthy ecosystem. So they are starting to put in their own measures and stuff. So again, it is moving in the right direction. It's just a question of, are we moving in that direction fast enough to kind of protect these species?
So how do you think next year is going to pan out? You know, do you think, what has got any projects coming up for next year?
The Manta Trust?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure in terms of really big projects. In the Maldives, we've got some cool little things going on. I'm carrying on the oceanic manta research with that population down in the south, which is really exciting. The number of new manta rays we ID'd this year, if we kind of carry on doing that every year, it could potentially be the largest population of oceanics in the world in a couple of years. Maldives already has the largest population of reef mantas. So that would be a pretty cool milestone. This year's project was supposed to be happening in March, which is the window for the oceanics in the deep south. But obviously the pandemic kind of got in the way of all of that. In the Maldives, we're rolling out some new time-lapse photography cameras. So again, sort of same idea with citizen science. Our researchers, we can only be in one place at one time with one camera. I mean, on dive site 2 kilometers away, there might be 50 mantas swimming around, and if you're not there, you're not there, and you don't get that data. So we're trying to deploy these cameras underwater, and they take a photo once every minute for like the whole of daylight hours.
And how are you going to do that then? Are they going to be fixed or?
Just kind of weighted to the seafloor, angled up at the cleaning station. And just sort of set to take a photo every minute, and then they'll turn off overnight so we don't sort of waste the battery. Whole bunch of sort of power banks in this PVC pipe tube thing, and come back a few days later or a week later, swap the camera over and download the photos.
Yeah, that must be really exciting to kind of uncover another view.
Yeah, and
drones.
Sorry?
Have you ever looked at these drones?
Yeah, we use drones as well to survey. Obviously, up from the boat, it's quite hard to sort of see too far. So we'll just put the drone up and search a few of the areas that we know mantas are often found feeding. You can see feeding mantas really easily from the drone. It's a big black diamond on the water. As soon as manta rays are sort of under the water on the cleaning stations, it's much more difficult to pick them out from the drones. But really useful.
Drones as well though, can't you?
Yeah, you can. We did get one, but it was a tethered one, so it had 30 meter of cable kind of thing. Visibility in the Maldives is normally 30 meters, and it's really hot, so I just prefer to jump in with my mask on rather than get the drone out.
Absolutely.
So I mean, if we could get ones without the tether, or ones that can go to 100 meters or so. Sorry?
Wondered if their behavior would be different.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. We don't want to be chasing the mantas around with little whirring drones either. So yeah, what impact that would have on their behavior, we'd need to assess that first as well.
Yeah,
no, that's good. So what is the population of mantas, the oceanic ones in Sri Lanka? What sort of numbers are you talking?
So in the Maldives, we've recorded, I think we're about 700 different individuals. But last year we recorded, I think, 350 mantas, and 2 of them were the same as the year before. So we basically doubled the population from 350 to 700, and only 2 of them were returning. So this year we were assuming we would hopefully get another sort of 300 on record, maybe a few more were re-sightings. Now we've got more years of data. But I think the biggest population of oceanics is only between 2,000 and 3,000. I think that's over in either Ecuador or Peru kind of area. But I mean, those research projects have been going on for 10 or 15 years. We've had 2 years of data from the oceanics. So Yeah, and then with
figures.
With the reef manta rays, the population in the Maldives, we're getting very close to 5,000 individuals on record. So that's by far the biggest population of reef mantas anywhere in the world, which is quite cool.
Yeah,
No, it's good numbers.
that must be really hard to get those sort of type of figures though, to even, you know, work that out.
Yeah, I mean, we've basically got a huge database of each of these manta rays spot patterns. Obviously, it's all sorted by males and females and how many spots and things like that. So if you send in a photo of manta, thankfully, we don't have to go through and compare it to all 5,000 of the other mantas.
Is that spot different to that one? You know,
it honestly, it is like that. And after a long day out on the boat searching for these animals, and then a long day in the office afterwards playing catch the manta, your eyes do start to it's not the funnest part of the job. But we've got some software under development, which is hopefully going to make that all automated and basically use effectively like image recognition software, like AI software kind of thing. And it should hopefully just...
So is that coming out on an app?
Yeah, I guess we will try and get an app eventually, but it will be a web-based thing first. Everyone can sort of, again, sign up and make their own account, and then you can log all your mantas that you've seen all around the world. Then you can pop back on next year and click on your manta and see where it's been since then, and all sorts of things like that. At the moment, we have all of that, but it is very manual, and you kind of got to reach out to us, and we have to check out little Excel documents and stuff. So yeah, it's going to hopefully streamline that, make it all much more sleek, and more appealing to sort of the citizen
It's almost
side.
like that ship find. Have you seen, you try to send that? And it'd be really groovy to say, like, say you go on holiday to the Maldives, and while you're there, and you see this manta ray, and you log it and all that, and when you get home, you can then go back, oh, where is it? Let's have a look, see if there's any more sightings of it, and
it's fascinating how they travel, and
it would.
Yeah.
And for our sort of common mantas in the Maldives, there'll be some really nice information, because every sort of season we get 30 sightings of that individual. So it's you'll get kind of a lot of data. For like the oceanic mantas, for example, where we've seen them once, and then I don't know, they might pop up in a few years' time and we get a second sighting. Be far less sort of information. Still really, really interesting. Where have they been for those last 4 or 5 years? They haven't been anywhere near the Maldives. Sort of, there's hundreds of divers in the water every day. So
it's amazing. There's so much that's unknown about them.
We're just out there swimming around in the open ocean.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, look at what
the whale shark is another example. Yeah, we've spoken to the guys in the Galapagos, and they'll just see them one season and then they just don't know where they're going.
Yeah, but they're saying that they turn up at the Galapagos and they disappear for like 6 weeks. I think they said like 4 to 6 weeks, and they're with a baby. And they're like, well, hang on, nobody saw that. Nobody's actually seen it. And you think we've got all this technology and everything, and almost it's still quite good that this is a mystery, because sometimes you do want mysteries in there. Like, is that where they give birth? You don't know, do you?
It's the onward quest.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's the same for mantas. We have no idea where they give birth. There's a few videos from pregnant females in aquariums on YouTube, but in terms of in the wild, there's no documented records of a manta ray giving birth. So yeah, it's a big question. And I mean, we're a team of around the world, probably 40, 50 scientists working full time on manta research. And we haven't figured this one out yet. So still one of the big questions, but
so is that everybody in Manta Trust, about 40 or 50? How many people you got so a big team in the UK?
No, in the sort of core team of the Manta Trust in the UK, around the world, we're about 6 people. In the Maldives, across the whole country, we have, when we're sort of fully up and running in normal times, I think between 12 and 15 staff. And then around the world, with sort of 20, 25 different affiliate projects, each one will probably have 2 or 3 staff, something like that. But also some of those affiliate projects, they're not just focused on manta rays. So like in Costa Rica, Connect Oceans with Ernst, he runs all sorts of diving, training, teaching diving to sort of people with disabilities and getting them in the water, all sorts of ocean education and outreach with local communities and schools. and also has kind of a little Manta Ray side project kind of thing, and that part of his project is connected with the Manta Trust as an affiliate.
And how are you finding getting support from some of the marine manufacturers and companies that are out there? Do you find you get support for them? I think you've got some collaborations. I was get my false teeth right.
Yes, yeah, we've got a number of commercial supporters around the world. A lot of those are kind of small independent brands, people who make, I don't know, jewelry that they sell on Etsy, or they do artwork about mantas and stuff, and they sell it, and they donate a commission, small percentage, to Manta Trust. And then we also have some larger partners. Karl F. Bucherer is a Swiss luxury watch brand who've been supporting us for a number of years, funding a lot of sort of big projects with us. And what they did is basically we gave them 188 different Manta Rays with their spot patterns, and they engraved them onto the back of each of their, like, well, one onto each of their watches. So that was a unique watch. Like, nobody else would have that watch because it's linked with that exact Manta Ray. And then that, again, sort of the whole database, you would have a little profile about your manta and where it'd been and where it'd been seen and so forth. So yeah, they've been incredibly supportive over the years. I don't think we have too many partnerships with like dive brands or anything. We've had a few donations from like Mares in the Maldives. They donated a whole bunch of snorkeling equipment to our education program, which we give out to local schools that we run education outreach with. So we've had sort of, yeah, things here and there with them.
Because you'd also do the adopter Manta Ray, like, you know, we do adopt the donkey, adopt the penguin, adopt the whatever. But you can also, you know, if you're listening, you can also adopt a Manta Ray. How cool is that?
Yeah, exactly. It's really nice. It's the pack is all digital, so it's like it's an eco-friendly gift as well. We don't have to print out anything or post it halfway across the world. You get like a little fact file about your manta, a little poster to print, little kids activity pack as well. So it's yeah, like Manta Ray crosswords and spot the difference, and yeah, kids activities in there as well. So they make really nice gifts.
Yeah,
and it's really good getting children involved as well, because you know they're the future, aren't they? And you want to, yeah. So
you tapped onto a Michael Jackson song there. Children are our future.
Did I? Oh,
yeah.
God.
Children are our future.
Well, they are.
They are. That's very good. But no, you know, if you're a scuba diver and you've got a scuba diver in your life, you know, get them adopt a Manta Ray for Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So where does the majority of your funding come from? Is it through donations and governments?
Yeah, we get a good chunk through sort of donations, either through, we've got a members only platform called the Cyclone, which effectively is a monthly donation or an annual donation, and in return you get access to a separate section of our website where we put up special interviews and bespoke videos that are only for Cyclone members. So yeah, between that and donations, merchandise sales, adopt a manta, all sorts of things like that. Some of the funding comes from that, but then also large chunks come from specific grants that we apply to. So either it's for running the core operations team, which is always the hardest part to fund. People are sort of quite happy to donate a few £100s to go towards sort of satellite tags to use on mantas, which hopefully will track and figure out all this really cool stuff. But nobody really wants to donate money to pay for the person who's running the social media or for doing the spreadsheets for the finances for the charity or something. It's nowhere near as glamorous. So that's, I think all charities are in the same boat with, that's the difficult bit to fund. But yeah, if we have a specific research project going on, whether it's tagging or genetics or trying to search in a new area in a new location, we'll apply to specific research grants as well to hopefully fund a 2 or 3 year sort of research project.
But the back office jobs are just as important as those who are out in the field, because you know you're all a team, aren't you? You know, you can't spread just a message as we're finding out,
Without the
by
work.
going diving all the time. As much as we'd like to go diving all the time, we've got to do all this thing on the phone and
all sorts of admin and stuff that goes along with it. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes of running these things that I think people don't really realise.
Yeah, and as you're a worldwide virtually, aren't you?
Yeah.
Over, it must be even harder. So have you got plans to go back off to the Maldives, or are you staying UK based?
Yeah, well, I'll be back out there sort of February, March, April time for the oceanic season next year. And then I was supposed to be out in September running. So we've got kind of a sister organization called Manta Expeditions who run tourism, citizen science, essentially trips, dive liveaboards around the world, but focused on mantas kind of thing. So I was supposed to be running one of those in September, but that got cancelled. So might have one or two more of those next year. They're really good, sort of a week-long liveaboard, but I will give presentations about manta research, manta conservation, fish biology, coral reefs, whale sharks. Kind of. So it's a bit more educational and engaging, and and obviously we'll focus on trying to collect as many manta IDs as well on the trips. I think those are. Other than that, I think I will be probably based in the UK. So I'll have to figure out how I'm going to get my fix of scuba diving over the cold winter months, especially without a dry suit.
Dry suit.
Be brave.
Have you got a dry suit?
I don't actually. It's one thing I need to invest in.
Yeah, do you know you need a dry suit, unfortunately, in the UK, really.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, it seemed like it was too hot in the summer, but now I realise. Quite cozy.
Yeah, nearly tropical, 18, 20 degrees. You have a dive bucket list where you most want to go dive, because you're in the fortunate position where you've dived in quite a lot of the great places around the world. Philippines, Thailand, Great Barrier Reef. Where else can you go that you haven't been?
So this year I was trying to get out to the Azores. They've got a really cool population of mobula tarapacana, the sicklefin devil ray, on some of the sites there, and also some really cool diving. So I was hoping to do that this summer, but didn't quite manage to do it. So that's still up there. I was in Socorro, it was this January, and although it was absolutely incredible, I was not the most lucky person on the boat. So there was a few things that I missed out on, didn't quite get to see. So I'd love to go back to Socorro.
Isn't that a dive though? When you get back to the dive boat, you go, "Oh, did you see that? Did you see that like frogfish?" And somebody go, "Yeah, did you see the shark though?" You're like, "No."
Yeah. Exactly. Well, it was like that on every dive of this trip, and I was there with Dr. Guy Stevens, my boss, the founder of the charity, and he is very lucky underwater. So he would come back, and we would just stagger the dives by sort of 10 or 15 minutes, and he would come back and they had dolphins playing around and like touching the strobes of his camera, and I didn't see any dolphins. So oh well.
Dive. What's going on?
Yeah, so if you want to go diving, don't bring me along because I'm not very lucky.
That must be very frustrating.
It is rather.
So is he still involved? Is he still heavily involved in the organisation?
Yeah, absolutely. Incredibly busy, publishing papers, supervising master's students and other PhD students. He rarely gets to spend any time kind of in the field anymore. I think it's all in the office, unfortunately. But,
no, that's good.
Yeah.
Have you got, mantas aside, have you got a favourite marine animal and why?
I love humpback whales. I've seen them a few times in the water. I'd say they're up there as well. Similar sort of thing with mantas, where you can sense that there's something going on there, probably more so for humpback whales, but even with a manta that's a fish, there's definitely some sort of like recognition and understanding going on there. With a humpback whale, it's kind of on another level. Which,
and it's again, is that you kind of think, really, you're going to hunt them?
Yeah.
Why would you?
Yeah, exactly.
It makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's another subject.
And I'd love to be in the water with orcas, But again, I either need to find a dry suit or get incredibly lucky somewhere warm and tropical.
Yeah, absolutely. They're amazing animals as well. Orcas. So if you could take 3 people in to see Manta Rays, right, and that could be from anyone from history, but maybe they're decision makers, with everything that we've discussed, you could take 3 people in to go see them and see, what's going on and make them aware. Who would you take in?
Oof, that is a tricky one. Yeah, I think it would definitely have to be probably politicians, probably from sort of China or Hong Kong or sort of East Asia, where a lot of this gill plate trade is being driven from. Or, I mean, another tact is celebrities in those areas. I mean, Wild Aid had huge success using Yao Ming as the sort of front cover of their illegal wildlife trade and shark fin campaigns. Yeah. So getting those sorts of celebrities on board and having them spread the word, and having them in the water and sort of seeing them is a whole different thing to just reaching out to them and being like, hey, can you talk about this for us? Whereas if they've seen the mantas themselves, then more engaged.
Yeah. When you think about it, that's actually quite a clever answer, because so many people today are influenced by people online, YouTube and stuff like that, even more so, and how sometimes they have more power than politicians. Yeah. And things never get changed unless there's enough people power to push back on politicians. So if you want to get the word out there, either go direct to the politicians or to try and change as many sort of normal folk out there in the community and get them involved and engaged. Yeah, I like that.
So when you're doing some research in the field and actually diving, trying to look for a manta, have you got a favourite piece of dive equipment or piece of kit? Don't go in down.
My camera. I'm quite into my underwater photography. I don't think I can quite call myself professional yet, but I'm always scared of going in without it because you never know what I'm going to see.
What have you got?
I've just changed from a DSLR Nikon. I've just changed to Panasonic GH5. Right. So trying to shift into videography rather than photography. But yeah, I kind of got it at the beginning of this year and then haven't been able to use it very much. So. Yeah,
it's quite interesting you say that, because a lot of people just prefer to stick with photography because the whole processing is easier. And where once you get into video, so the processing is a lot more, it's not always as straightforward.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I wouldn't say photography is easier, but it's definitely very different. It's that one single frame, and once you've got that, a bit of post editing and you're done.
The process is simplified.
Yeah, I would say so. Whereas with video, it's a whole story that you need to try and plan, and then you need to edit, and then find music and all sorts of other things. But I also think it is, I don't know, it can be a more effective way of getting a message through. But then on the flip side, with the way sort of social media works at the moment, people's attention span on social media is so short. So putting up a 3-4 minute video and people only watch 15 seconds of it, and well, the other 2.5 minutes was a waste of my time, wasn't it?
It's criminal when you think about it, because you put a video together
and do all that work.
I know, and it's gone, they got flick, and that's why stories really well.
Yeah, nice and short and sweet. But again, also photos, like people will stop and look at a photo and they've taken all of that in. Yeah, they haven't looked for as long as they probably should at that photo to really appreciate it, but at least like they've seen that whole piece, whereas a video on social media, so often people just barely see any of it, unfortunately.
We're finding that stories are getting more powerful, because we're getting, you might see a handful, or we'll only interact with that post, but stories, a few hundred people are looking at them, seeing them stories.
Yeah, it's just the hit rate.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so after you've been diving, looking for your mantas, do you have a post-dive favourite meal or drink?
depends where I am in the world. Hot chocolate is always nice if it's been a bit chilly. That always goes down well.
Day diving.
That's when, no, when you're on liverboard, they give you the hot chocolate.
Exactly, yeah.
Blue O2, there you go, so your Blue O2 hot chocolate. Lovely.
Nice warm hand towel and everything. In terms of a meal, I don't really know. Probably something with pasta, because even though I'm just diving, I seem to burn so much energy and I get really hungry. I think any diver knows that on a liverboard. All you do is eat constantly. Yeah, so pasta or something heavy like that.
Yeah. Cool. That's good. So, last question then. So, if you've got a billboard and you can put a message on that billboard, it can be a statement, it can be an image, it can be a question, but you want to get a message out to the millions of people by using this billboard, what would be the one thing you put on it?
So for me personally, I would maybe take this away from Manta Trust a little bit. I've recently set up my own charity called Fish Free February. So it's kind of a campaign to basically get people to reduce the amount of seafood they're eating and be more aware of where it's coming from, using February as kind of like can you not eat any seafood for 28, 29 days of February, and then reduce your consumption in general, because yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sort of movement towards this greener diet, more eco-friendly diet, but I feel like seafood gets left out of the picture quite a lot. A lot of the message is about sort of beef and cattle and how it's destroying the Amazon, whereas the oceans, I feel, get kind of left out of the picture. So yeah, I've literally just registered that as a charity in the last few weeks, so that's all quite exciting. So I would probably use the billboard to put up a big campaign poster about trying to get people to go fish free in February.
Yeah.
So Fish Free February.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So do you eat fish?
I don't. I do sometimes when I'm out in the Maldives or something. Again, I try to be as vegetarian as possible. I can't claim to be fully vegetarian, but yeah, when I'm out in the Maldives, often the sort of food availability isn't the same as what we have here. You can't find tofu and you can't find all this sort of stuff. And eating fish is probably a lot more sustainable than eating chicken that's been flown in from Brazil or something like that. So yeah, I do sometimes when I'm out in the field like that. But here in the UK, when I have the choice and the options that we have here in the UK, no, I don't eat any seafood anymore.
That's what it's all about. It's choice at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, and knowing what's sustainable and what's not as well.
Yeah, and I mean, with this sort of thing, I'm all for reducing people's impact. I don't really agree with the sort of shoving it down your neck and like, you should never eat this ever again, or you should never do this ever again. Getting people to reduce, I'd rather get lots of people to do it imperfectly than a few people to do it perfectly, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's even a small change that all contributes to the bigger picture, which
Exactly.
What's important to get children on board, because, you know, in the day, as you said, they are the future, as Michael Jackson said, you know, and it's about education, isn't it? Education of the children, so they get to know these things, you know, and hopefully that will change the future.
Yeah.
So that's all good.
So have you got any questions for us?
When are you guys out diving next, do you know?
Hopefully maybe in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Will be good.
our last dive was last Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Are you just sticking to UK waters at the moment?
Yeah, for the time being, that well, for foreseeable future, really. I think that'd be nice to do another liverboard at some stage, and that'd be awesome for you.
Yeah, because I'm quite a new diver. I only qualified in July, so.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it kind of is nice knowing that there's so much being talked about UK diving and about all the different, you know, from Scotland to the south coast and, you know, what we've got on the east coast.
Yeah.
And the inland waters as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So in terms of our listeners, where can they go to find out more about the Manta Trust?
Yeah, so obviously our website is probably the best place. It's got loads of information on there, all about what are mantas and mobula rays, the threats to them, all sorts of stuff like that. You can find our entire kind of webinar series from earlier this year on there as well. And you can also find all the information about, if you want to support the Manta Trust, how to go about that with either adopting a manta or joining the cyclone. And then we're also on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Manta Trust, one word. Or sign up to our newsletter as well. That's also available through our website. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions about mantas or anything that we do, we're always here waiting. So just drop us an email.
Yeah, that's good to know.
It is. Yeah, that's good. Get them Christmas presents in and adopt their Manta Rays. That's what I say. I've done, haven't I? Like that.
Perfect. Yep,
Awesome.
that's great.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much.
No worries. Well, thanks for having me.
Great. Okay, well, have a lovely
Nice
evening.
meeting you, and thank you very much for your time.
You too, guys. Thank you very much.
Simon.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.